What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made this. Beautiful, delicious, barky, juicy, tender, amazing, one-day overnight cured pastrami. Coming up. This is a brisket. Pat it dry. And what I got here is a USDA prime brisket. Picked this up from the grocery store. Looking pretty good. You know, not the best looking brisket I've ever seen. Got a big decal fat back here. A lot of this kind of gross fat on the side. But decent looking marbling. Weighing in a little over 16 pounds. But we do have a nice full fat cap, which is a good thing. And today we're making another brisket pastrami. And I thought that I had a lot of pastrami videos on this channel, but I just looked it up, and I haven't put out a pastrami video since 2022, which seems like an awful long time ago. But then again, I do make pastrami off camera several times a year for friends or family, or just to have on hand, because it is so tasty. So maybe that's the reason I feel like it hasn't been 3 years. But the only problem with making pastrami is it takes such a long time. And if you're making a traditional pastrami, you'll make the brine, submerge your brisket in, and let it sit there for like 2 weeks, which is a really long time. But I've cheated the system in the past on this channel by making the brine and busting out a handy dandy injector and pumping this thing through and then letting it sit for 5 days. I think I did 3 or 4 days once. But it got me thinking, what is the smallest amount of time needed to actually cure this pastrami and get that nice color and flavor all the way throughout? And basically how pastrami works is the brine has sodium nitrite in it, and once the nitrites interact with the meat and the water, they start to convert from nitrites into nitric oxide. And it's the nitric oxide that has the antimicrobial effect, thus killing any bacteria, curing the meat. But it also interacts with the myoglobin, preserving that red color that pastrami is known for. And that conversion process takes anywhere from like 8 to 12 hours. So in theory, if we do a really good job injecting this brisket, we should be able to do an overnight or one-day cure on this thing and hopefully get the same results. But I've never tried it before, so that's what we're gonna try today. But first things first, we gotta get this thing trimmed up. So flip it over to the back side, and we're gonna start by taking out this big chunk of decal fat, gigantic one on this brisket. Find that natural seam and get that out of there. Look at the size of that. That'll be great for tallow or sausage. And then we can start cleaning up the backside a little bit, getting any silver skin or extra fat off, kind of rounding off these corners, giving everything some nice shape. And once the backside is looking nice and clean, while I'm back here, I'm also going to start taking this big chunk of fat down. A lot of fat, a little bit of meat. Could save that for making some burn ends or something. But add that to the tallow pile. Go ahead and flip this over. Starting to take shape. Always got a big chunk of fat right there as well, so we'll kind of come and scoop that out as well. More for tallow. Make sure everything is sitting nice and flat. Then we can take down this mohawk just a little bit. Great for burgers. Always rounding our edges. And start to get this fat cap down to where we want it to be. Because just like any regular brisket, we want some fat, but not too much fat. Although this one is pretty close right out of the bag. And once that fat cap is looking good, we'll give it the old Chud scrape. Get rid of any knife marks to make it look nice and pretty. Beautiful. And now it's time to give it its shape, get rid of this really thin end, and make this kind of the size we want it to be. So kind of matching the same angle on this side, I'm going to come down and just square off this really thin end. Beautiful. Round this corner off. But starting to look really nice, good shape. Got decent fat on that side. Still got a lot of fat right in here, so I'll probably take that down a little bit. Don't need all that in there. Just going around, giving it a once over, making sure everything is nice and clean. Got this kind of nasty layer of not ideal fat on the top of this thing. And just like that, folks, we've got ourselves a perfectly trimmed brisket, good amount of fat, laying nice and flat, and clean back. So all we gotta do now is make ourselves a brine. And to get our brine started, we're gonna go into this pot with 2 quarts of water, to which we're gonna add a whole bunch of salt, as well as some brown sugar. Give that a nice little mix up, get the dissolving process started. We're also going in with our pink curing salt number 1, some fresh garlic, black peppercorns, some coriander seeds, 3 cinnamon sticks, some mustard seeds, red chili flakes, some juniper berries, cloves, some allspice berries, as well as a few bay leaves. Give that a nice thorough mixing and bring this up to a boil. And once up to a boil and everything has dissolved and all the flavors have been infused, in we go into our intended vessel. God, this smells so good. But because this brine is now super hot and we don't want to be injecting hot brine into our brisket, we're going to cool it down with the rest of our water weight in ice water form. 1 gallon total. And get that all mixed up. And once the ice is melted and this brine is cooled down, in we go with our beautiful brisket. And again, traditionally at this point, you would just pop a lid on this and park it in the fridge for 2 weeks to let that brine really penetrate naturally. But we're testing out the theory, if we inject it a whole bunch with this handy dandy injector, we should hopefully get the same results overnight. So what I'm gonna do is grab some of this brine and send it through a little sieve here to catch any seeds and spices so we don't clog up the injector, and fill this quart container over here. Seeds go back in, and then from here, fill up our injector, and we're just gonna spend the next like 15-20 minutes just pumping this thing full. Oh God, don't get that in your eye. Oh! Also, this thing doesn't work anymore, so that's why I'm going manually. If anyone knows of any really good injectors that last more than, you know, a couple of injection sessions, let me know in the comments. Although this works just fine. Just trying to keep a mental note of where I've been, kind of go down the line, row by row, kind of a pain in the butt. But you know, if 10-15 minutes of doing this saves us 2 whole weeks of time, I think it's pretty worth it. Also, in theory, because we're poking so many holes in this thing, it might actually tenderize the brisket, a little blade tenderization action going on. And just like that, after a lot of stabbing squirts, I sent 3 quarts of the liquid through this brisket, and it looks a lot bigger already. Definitely feeling heavier. Oh yeah, that is fully saturated with brine. Let me go ahead and flip this meat side down, because I didn't make enough brine to cover this thing, which I think should be fine because all the meat side down there is what's really going to absorb all the brine, and that is fully submerged. But I will come through and flip this over a couple times over the next few hours. And now lids go on, and into the fridge this goes overnight. It is currently 2 p.m. and we're probably going to cook this thing tomorrow morning, so maybe 20 hours. We'll see what time I get up, but I'll see y'all tomorrow. 19 hours later. Out of the fridge this comes, looking good. Like I said, I flipped it over a few times just to make sure we got even brining, but spent most of the time like this with most of the meat submerged, and it's looking pretty good, but it is covered in berries and mustard seeds, so I'm gonna go dump out this brine and give this thing a rinse under some cold water. And just like that, all rinsed off, looking good, looking really big, and feeling extremely heavy because of all the brine that's in there. But definitely changed color a little bit, so that's a good sign. Still not sure if that's even penetration of that brine, but we will only find that out at the end. And looking at it, I kind of wish I took more of this lean off. Interesting how I'm seeing that now after it's brined and not beforehand. Maybe it did actually swell up a little bit. But really all we got to do now is throw some rub on this thing. Ooh, big gash in there too. Interesting. And because it is already pumped full of salt and all that flavor, all we really need to do now is add some pepper and extra flavor to the outside just to build that bark. So, very simple rub, consisting of 2 parts of 16 mesh black pepper to 1 part coarsely ground coriander. That's just some coriander seeds that I popped in the spice grinder and blitzed up to try to get the same size mesh as the 16 mesh. And give that a nice little shake. And then on we go. Nice heavy coating of this stuff. Again, we're just trying to add some flavor and build up that Texas style bark. Because there's no salt in this rub, we can go on as heavy as we like. And obviously no need for a binder. This stuff is still wet, just came out of a brine after all. Flip it over, and we'll do the top side as well. And please, folks, don't forget the sides. Come on, that would be a rookie move. And that is looking pretty much perfect to me. And I know it's already salted thoroughly, but just for a little extra pop, I'm gonna hit it with some secret salt. Just a little bit on top for good measure, but definitely don't wanna add too much. There we go. And now that that's all seasoned up, I think it's time to fire up the pit. I thought we were past this, but apparently I have a snake in my boot. And on the pit we go. Got the old offset fired up with a post oak fire today, going fat cap up, fatty side toward the fire. Pump this up a little bit, make sure everything's sitting nicely. Got a blocking log in here for some reason. Water tray, don't think we need that for this cook, because the brisket is chock full of water already. But as you can see, it is really smoky because that fire is still on its way up. So we're gonna go ahead and shut this down, making sure we get a lot of this early smoke on there to make sure it is, in fact, nice and smoky. And game plan for this cook is like any other brisket cook. We're gonna start out low and slow, nice and smoky. As you can see, we're still on the way up, but right now we're at about 175, but we're aiming for that 200 to 225 range for the first 2 hours. Then we'll gradually start bumping the temps up to that 225 to 250 range for a few hours, eventually getting up to 275, where the majority of this cook will take place. But for now, I'm just gonna watch that fire and enjoy the day, but we'll check back in on this in a couple hours. We are 4 hours into this cook, and it has been at or below 250 the entire entire time, and this thing is starting to look really good. Beautiful bark on there, nice and smoky. Getting a little bit of pooling right there, but nothing too bad. Very easy cook so far. Bark is starting to get nice and dark, so we're gonna bump the temps up a little bit at this point. Mostly around that 250 mark and kind of creeping up towards 275. But anywhere in that range is where I'm gonna rock it for the next probably 4 hours. We are 11 hours into this cook at this point, and this brisket has finally come up to an internal temperature of 180 degrees in the thickest part of the bottom of the flat, which is something I always forget about with pastramis, is that they take forever to cook because they are so full of water and brine. Really slows the process down a little bit, but it is looking good. So out it comes. Ow. Beautiful bark on that, looking nice and tender, starting to feel really squishy already, smelling nice and smoky. Smell that coriander already, but now we're gonna wrap it up with the good old trusty foil boat. Beautiful. And now back on the pit this goes. Probably gonna bump the temps up to around 300 degrees just to render down this top fat a little bit, collecting all the juices at the bottom, making sure the underside is nice and tender. And hopefully it'll only take another couple of hours. But 300 degrees, fat side up. I might aim the lean side toward the fire just to let that end catch up a little bit because the fatty always cooks a little bit quicker. But other than that, I'll see you when this thing is done. 14 hours on the dot, and this brisket is finally done. Ooh. Taking a look, the bark is impenetrable, nice and barky, nice and dark, feeling incredibly squishy. You got that jiggle factor to it. But most importantly, when you reach underneath and feel the underside, it is feeling nice and tender, nice and squishy, good fat render. Smells good. Got that pastrami vibe to it. You know that clove is coming through. But look at that jiggle. Oh, gotta love it. Oops. But just like any brisket slash pastrami cook, I'm gonna pull this off, pop that on the sheet tray here, and into the house it goes. It's gonna rest down for probably an hour or so until we hit an internal temp of around 150, and then into the food warmer, also set at 150 to 155. It's gonna sit to rest overnight, probably for the next like 15 hours or so, just to make sure everything is nice and tender and evenly cooked through. So I'll see y'all tomorrow. One overnight heated rest later, out this brisket comes. In my last brisket video, I got a lot of questions about what food warmer I have, and this is an Alto Sham, which is like the creme de la creme of food warmers. Very high end, very expensive. I think new these are like $3,000, maybe even more. But there is a trick if you want to get one on the cheap, and that is to work at a barbecue restaurant for 5 years and wait for that barbecue restaurant to get a brick and mortar and start selling off their gear. That's right, this is Leroy and Lewis's old food warmer that we used on the food truck for many years, so I put a lot of food through this thing. But when they went to the new restaurant, they got full-size warmers, so they didn't need this small guy anymore, so I picked it up for like 300 bucks. So pretty good deal. And you can still fit a lot of food in there. Definitely not top notch. The light doesn't work, the thermometer doesn't work, but gets the job done and it's really nice. But a lot of other brands make cheaper options for food warmers, so you don't need to get this fancy one. But back to this lovely pastrami, smelling really good. The whole garage smells really good at this point, which is the nice part about having that thing out there. But I do want to build it into this outdoor patio at some point. But now it's finally time to slice into this thing and see if we can get away with an overnight wet brine to get a fully cured pastrami. Ooh, that feels so tender. Good flop factor, lovely bark on there. And as always, we can do a little bit of a oops, oh no, oh, what have I done? I know Evan always loves it when I do that. But let's slice in, shall we? Start out by going right down the middle. Ooh, crunchy bark, nice clean cut. And to answer our question, yup, you can definitely get away with an overnight wet brine. That looks like full penetration to me. Maybe a little spot right there, but honestly, that looks really good. And it smells fantastic. Get a few center cut slices of lean. Looking beautiful, nice and juicy. Good fat render on there. Oh my God, that looks incredible. Look at that. Jiggle, jiggle. But let's go for some fatty, shall we? Nice little look at those burn ends. Looking very nice. Set those burn ends aside while we go for some of this fatty. Yep, that looks really good. Oh yeah. And there it is, folks, all sliced up. We've got some beautiful red, floral smelling, barky, juicy pastrami brisket, looking incredibly tasty. And as long as it tastes all right, I think we answered the question of, yes, you can make a one-day pastrami. And I know technically this is day 3 of making pastrami, so I can't really call it a one-day pastrami, but what I'm really talking about is the brining process. Because again, traditionally, pastrami recipes brine for 2 weeks. And whenever I do it, I inject it and I give it at least 3 days, usually 5. And the last time I was making it, I was just wondering, can we get away with an overnight, one-day brine? And turns out, yes, you can. And that looks so good. It's impossibly tender, just bloop, bloop, bloop. But let's see how it came out. Oh my God, that is ridiculous. So juicy, so fatty, and possibly tender too, just It's so nice to be tasting real smoke again. Nice and salty too. That was fantastic. Honestly, that bite, a little too salty. I probably will skip the secret salt next time. Very unnecessary because this meat is just flavored all the way throughout. But the cook on that is just absolutely perfect. And then we got a nice center cut lean, looking nice and juicy and just boop. Oh yeah. Wants to pull apart. Go for a center cut bite, shall we? You gotta love pastrami. I mean, it eats just like a regular brisket, but it's just packed with so much more flavor. I mean, look at that. Come on. Honestly, it is a little less floral than the pastramis I'm used to eating. So maybe there is some merit to doing a 3 to 5 day soak just to let the coriander and, you know, the warming spices like the clove and the cinnamon really penetrate and develop. But if you're in a pinch for time, this is a fantastic bite because it still is definitely pastrami. It's got those flavors. They're just not nearly as strong as ones I've made in the past. That bark is so good though. Every time I eat a pastrami like this, I think to myself, should I just start putting coriander in my brisket rub just for normal briskets because it's so tasty? And actually they do that at Mickleway, so if you ever go there, see if you can taste the coriander in the rub, but that is good. And whenever I think about pastrami, I think about it like a Christmas brisket, you know, because you got the clove and the warming spices in there. It still eats like a Texas brisket, but it's just kind of got those holiday flavors to it. But it's good any time of year. Get some hot mustard out, some spicy brown, some rye bread, make some sandwiches. All day long. Go for another slice of lean. That's really good. But before I go ahead and make myself a big old Katz's Deli style sandwich, I think it's time for the official taste test. Ooh. Chompers on that one. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make an absolutely fantastic one-day overnight wet brine pastrami. I highly recommend giving this one a try, you know? I think there still is some benefit to doing a longer brine on these things. The meat will probably tighten up with the cure, and those other flavors will be a little bit more pronounced, but all in all, this is a super passable pastrami, and it's really great to know that if I'm ever in a pinch and I want to make a pastrami, I don't have to wait, you know, half a week or more, because this did come out great with all those classic pastrami flavors, and there's a lot less hassle because that takes up a lot of space in the fridge, so definitely glad I tried this out, and definitely something I'll be making again very soon. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Team Chud members. Thank you for supporting this channel and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace.